2026 doesn't feel like a fresh page for everyone. For a lot of people, it feels like the same page just turned over. You wake up, you make coffee, you glance at the phone, and before the day even starts, something tightens in the chest. Maybe it's money, maybe it's health, maybe it's a relationship that looks fine from the outside, but feels lonely on the inside. Maybe it's that quiet fear that time is moving faster than you can keep up. And what's strange is, you can do everything right. You can be responsible. You can be productive. You can show up for your family. You can keep the lights on. You can look like you're holding it together. And still, the mind feels heavy. In Buddhist wisdom, there's a simple truth that can sound almost offensive at first. Suffering doesn't only come from life being hard. It also comes from the way we hold life, the way we grip it, the way we cling to how things should be, how people should stay the same, how we should feel by now, who we should be at this stage of life. And when 2026 arrives, it doesn't ask permission. It doesn't ask if you're ready. It just shows you what you're still carrying. Tonight, or maybe later today, somebody will scroll past a photo online and feel behind. Somebody will sit in traffic and feel like the world is speeding up. Somebody will stare at a calendar and think, I can't believe it's already January. And the pain of that moment might be real. But the extra suffering, the part that makes you feel trapped, often comes from one thing: clinging to an identity that can't stay solid. Let me take you back for a moment, not to a myth, not to a motivational story, just to something many Americans still remember clearly: the financial crisis in 2008. For a long time, a lot of people believed life was stable. You worked hard, you played by the rules, you built a career, you saved, you planned. And then suddenly, it wasn't stable anymore. People lost jobs they thought they'd retire from. People watched savings shrink. Families had to downsize fast. Some moved in with relatives. Some felt shame, even when none of it was truly their fault. What hit hardest wasn't only the practical loss, it was the identity loss. I'm the provider. I'm the successful one. I'm the stable one. I'm the one who has it figured out. When that identity cracked, suffering surged. And here's what's interesting. Two people could go through the same collapse and experience it differently. One person held on with a clenched fist, fighting reality every day, ashamed, angry, panicking, replaying the past. Another person still felt grief, still felt fear, but slowly began to loosen the grip. Not because they stopped caring, but because they stopped demanding that life stay frozen in the version that felt safe. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. And it's the same wisdom that the Buddha pointed to, not as a religion you have to believe in, but as a way to understand why the heart gets tired. A lot of modern self-help sounds like this: add more goals, add more habits, add more hustle, add more positivity. But Buddhist practice often moves in the opposite direction, not adding more, but removing what's false, heavy, and unconscious. So today, I want to share 7 gentle lessons, 7 ways of seeing that can help 2026 feel less like a threat and more like a passage. Not perfect, just lighter. Lesson 1. Suffering begins with attachment. In Buddhism, pain is part of life. Bodies age, people change, plans break, goodbyes happen. But suffering often begins when the mind says, this shouldn't be happening. Attachment isn't just wanting something. Attachment is when your peace depends on it. It's the difference between, I'd like things to go well, and I need things to go well or I can't be okay. And most of us don't notice how often we do that. We cling to a routine because uncertainty makes the stomach twist. We cling to a relationship because loneliness feels worse than stagnation. We cling to a label, strong, broken, successful, spiritual, lost, because without the label, we don't know who we are. Buddhist wisdom doesn't shame that, it simply asks us to look, because seeing is what loosens the grip. Lesson 2. You are not your thoughts. If there's one thing that quietly ruins people's lives, it's the belief that every thought is true. A thought arises, I'm too old to change. A thought arises, this is just who I am. A thought arises, if I fail again, it proves something is wrong with me. And we treat that thought like a verdict. But Buddhism offers a different image. The mind is like the sky. Thoughts are like clouds. Some clouds are dark, some are loud, some are repetitive, but the sky isn't harmed by them. Here's a simple, powerful shift. Instead of saying, I am anxious, it becomes, anxiety is here. Instead of, I'm not enough, it becomes, that familiar thought is back again. That may sound small, but it changes the power dynamic inside. Because if you can notice a thought, then you are not the thought. You're the one who is aware. And awareness is steadier than the mental noise. Lesson 3. Impermanence is not a threat, it's a deadline. Buddhism talks a lot about impermanence. Everything changes. Not as a poetic idea, as a fact. Your body is changing. Your energy changes. People you love change. The world changes. And impermanence can feel scary because it exposes procrastination. The mind loves later. I'll take care of my health later. I'll fix that relationship later. I'll slow down when things calm down. But impermanence whispers something honest. Later isn't promised. Not as punishment, as clarity. And there's a strange relief in that, because when you stop negotiating with time, you become more precise. You stop spending attention on what doesn't matter. You stop feeding arguments that go nowhere. You stop drifting, and you start asking what actually matters now. Lesson 4. Discipline can be compassion. A lot of people hear discipline and think punishment, rigid rules, no joy, pressure, shame. But in Buddhist practice, discipline can be a form of kindness, not harshness. Kindness that thinks long-term. Because a life without structure isn't always free. Sometimes it's just reactive, sleeping whenever, eating whatever, scrolling endlessly, saying yes when you mean no. And the cost shows up later as anxiety, fog, exhaustion. So discipline, real discipline, can be simple. A steady bedtime most nights, a daily walk, a few quiet minutes in the morning, boundaries that protect your attention. Not because you're trying to be perfect, but because you're reducing future suffering. That's compassion, not the soft kind that indulges every impulse, the steady kind that says, I care about who I'm becoming. Lesson 5. Desire never ends. Awareness does. There's a trap in modern life that keeps people restless. The belief that fulfillment is one more achievement away, one more upgrade, one more purchase, one more breakthrough, one more milestone, and then you'll finally feel settled. But the mind doesn't work that way. It gets what it wants, feels relief for a moment, and then scans again. What's next? Buddhism doesn't call desire evil. It just says, very calmly, unseen desire will run your life. Awareness changes that. When you notice craving as craving, it loses authority. It becomes a wave instead of a current. You can feel it, acknowledge it, and not be owned by it. And slowly, without forcing anything, a new question appears. What is enough? In a world that profits from dissatisfaction, that question is a radical form of peace. Lesson 6. Silence reveals what you avoid. Most people aren't afraid of noise. They're afraid of what happens when the noise stops. Because silence is a mirror. When there's no screen, no music, no podcast, no conversation, the mind starts showing you what's been waiting underneath. Unprocessed grief, old fear, tension you've been carrying for years, needs you never admitted out loud. This isn't failure. This is the practice working. Silence doesn't give comfort first. It gives honesty first. And honesty is where healing begins. Not dramatic healing, just the kind where you stop running from yourself. Lesson 7. Let the old self die quietly. This one sounds intense, but it doesn't have to be. Buddhist teaching includes the idea of non-self, not meaning you don't exist, but meaning the fixed self you defend is not as solid as you think.
So much of what we call me is a collection of habits, roles, and survival strategies. Some were helpful once, some were formed during fear, and at a certain point, those strategies stop protecting and start limiting. Letting the old self die isn't dramatic. It's simply releasing loyalty to an outdated story. Stories like, "I'm just not disciplined. I've always been this way. It's too late now. People like me don't change." Those aren't facts, they're identities protecting themselves. And when they loosen, something opens. Not a perfect new personality, just space. Less defense, less performance, less inner war, more flexibility, more truth. Closing. A calm ending, not a promise. 2026 doesn't need a louder version of you, not a busier one, not a more impressive one. It may be asking for a less defended one, a version of you that can hold life with open hands instead of a clenched fist. And if any of this feels heavy, it's okay. This path doesn't promise that suffering disappears forever. It offers something more realistic, a mind that stops fighting what is already true. So maybe, just for today, there's a gentle experiment, not a big resolution, just a small honesty. What is one thing you're still carrying only because it's familiar? And what would it feel like to set it down, even a little? Not to become somebody else, but to stop the exhausting job of pretending you have to stay the same. If you'd like, take a slow breath before you move on with your day. Not to escape life, just to meet it more awake.